I wasn't going to answer it until I saw it was Karen, and then, well, welcome to our September 20th edition of Frisco Connect, where we're going to pre-celebrate the autumnal equinox, which occurs on Thursday. My name is John Luce, and I'm humbled to be a volunteer leader for the Frisco Connect group. We're glad you're here, those of you who are here in person, and those of you watching us on live stream on YouTube, welcome. I want to just say a note to those watching on live stream. I know we started a few minutes late. Please forgive us. We'll try to be more punctual in the future because we know your time is valuable. But I'd like to say a word to those watching online to please, if at all possible, if you're not really remote, like in New York or Hawaii or Alaska, if you can make it here in person. We're trying to get more in-person participation like we used to before the big COVID deal. So because networking is a face-to-face, shake a hand, have a cup of coffee, build a relationship type of thing. And we've seen it work marvelously for people who are looking for employment, whether it be in transition, changing careers, or just because their old employer decided to dispatch them. It's a wonderful way to build a personal network. And when you meet somebody and build a relationship with them, you plug yourself into their network. And when you meet people in their network, then you plug into the third network. It's the 6 degrees of separation deal. So we really encourage in-person participation, and we thank you who have come out today to join us. We meet twice a month on the first and third Tuesdays of every month. If there's 5 Tuesdays in a month, that last Tuesday we don't meet. And our next get-together will be on October 4th. And we look forward to seeing a bunch of you here. We've got plenty of room here. If you're a little shy about sitting close to people, we've got room to keep you separated if you like. So we really encourage you to come out and join us. Okay, I'm going to try and go through. We are sponsored by Stonebriar Community Church as an outreach to the community in the community care mission of the church. And we're very grateful. They've hosted us for well over a decade. And Pastor Steve Fisher, who's the pastor of care ministries here at Stonebriar, has been our sponsor and our supporter for these 12 years or so that we've been doing this, and we're really grateful for that support. We're also grateful for the support of the Stonebriar audiovisual production team, who helps us get this online and share it with a broader group of people, and so we're grateful for that. We believe, as I've got up there on Philippians 2:4, that each of us should look not only to his own interests, but also the interests of others. And that's what networking is all about, is paying it forward. There's some people in this room that you'll hear from this morning who are here faithfully to support us and to encourage us and to share other resources for those who are in the transition, in the working transition. So, we believe in a God who hears prayer, and we believe in prayer is a powerful tool that we have for seeking the assistance of a God who cares for each one of us. So we're going to take just a moment, if you wouldn't mind, join me, and I'm going to offer a short prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for today and for all the blessings and the challenges through which we learn to be better in so many ways. And thank you for being with us and that you care for us so much. We thank you for all those who participate and support Frisco Connect. We ask you to bless them. All those online, Lord, be with them as they juggle and struggle with putting together tactics and strategies to land their next position. May you guide them with wisdom and get them to a position of employment that makes the best use of their talents so that they may be productive for themselves and their employer. We put today in your hands, and we thank you so much for all that you do for us, and we thank you in the name of your Son, Jesus our Lord. Amen. Okay. Point it that way. We're cell phone friendly. We ask, if you're here live, we ask you to put your cell phone on vibrate or silent so that as we go along, you don't miss any vital information with the interruption. If you do get a call, hey, we got plenty of room in this room as well as in the hallway and down to where you came in to have a semi-private conversation. And hopefully that's the call you've been waiting for, that's going to be your final interview or your job offer. And we pray for that constantly. Wi-Fi is available here on site. SCC_public is the channel. It is not a secured channel, but you can get to the internet and what you might need by using that. Okay. I want to talk about Reach Up, Reach Out. That's another meeting we hold on Friday mornings via Zoom only at this point. Reach Up, Reach Out was the original meeting before we migrated into Frisco Connect. And what we do with Reach Up, Reach Out is it's more for edification, sharing hope and encouragement, because looking for employment, no matter what your situation is, it can really drag you down. There's a lot to do, a lot of hard work in finding your next position, and people get discouraged, people get scattered, people get upset, and so we try to address on Friday mornings the spiritual, emotional, and mental things that go on when you're in transition. So it's a small meeting. I've got the meeting ID and password up there, but I'll also reference how you can find that on the Stonebrower website in a moment. And what we do is Steve Fisher, who's our sponsor, does a short devotional to help us feel encouraged, to help us feel strengthened and restored. Very short. It's not a sermon. It's not a Bible study. And then we go around and share, everybody on the call shares what we can do to pray for them, what their needs are, what their position is, and we pray for everyone as we go around on the call. It goes from 7 until 8:30 a.m. on Friday morning, and if you're not there right at 7, don't worry about it. Join us whenever you can. All right. Additional resources. We have a Frisco Connect group on Yahoo. It's called Frisco Connect Job Networking on Facebook. And on LinkedIn, we have a group called Frisco Connect that has about 2,600 members. Yes, sir. Pete.
Are we on Yahoo or Groups.io?
We're on... Oh, I have to change that. We're on Groups.io. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. We're on Facebook and we're on LinkedIn. The Yahoo group went away about, 2 years ago? 2 years ago, yeah. We have an email group called Groups.io for those who attend here, and if we get your name and email address, we'll send you an invite to that group. Now, the Frisco Connect group on Facebook carries a lot of good information, and so does the one on LinkedIn. The LinkedIn page for Frisco Connect has about 2,600, 2,700 members. Many of them are alumni. They're currently employed, but they stay engaged. They're willing to pay it forward, help others. It's a good way to connect to other people who have been part of Frisco Connect in the past, as well as those who are participating currently. Thank you, Pete. I will get that changed. All right. For details on Frisco Connect, reach out. If you go to stonebriar.org on the web, all you have to do scroll to the bottom of the screen and type in career-transition. It'll bring you to a page that'll lead you to everything about Frisco Connect and everything about Reach Up, Reach Out. Our meetings are also on careerdfw.org. That's Jeff Morris's site, and you can find the details there as well. Okay, there we go. All right, I think I've covered everything I'm supposed to. Foster, did I?
I'm thinking.
Oh, I know. I can smell the wood burning. Sorry, you walked right into that.
Where's the barbecue today?
Oh, where's the barbecue today? Yeah, I think I got everything, and I'm going to hand it over to you now. Do you have a handheld?
I am grabbing one right now.
All right. With a green light at the bottom.
Okay.
All right. Not that you need it for in here, Foster, but I want the sound to get out over the YouTube
Yeah.
stream.
What he said.
What he said. Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
you got to push this
Push
up.
it up.
Now you're on.
Uh-oh, look out.
Thank you, brother.
Okay. All right. Oh, man, look at there. I don't even have to hold this thing close to my mouth. Guys, welcome to Frisco Connect. I am Foster Williams. I am a longtime recruiter. I want to kind of go over a little bit of what John went over earlier.
Just that
We
black
are
and blue
here,
shows
guys,
every
to
little-
share as much information as we can about what it's like to get a job. That has changed so much in the last 3 years. Oh, my goodness. So in the network, we want to let you guys know of value adds that we have, different people. I'm going to introduce you to Trevor Houston and Mark Elder here in a second. I want you guys to know what's going on in this very network that you're a part of. Like John said, there are a number of people there, believe it or not. We've been in existence now since 2008, and there are hundreds of thousands of people that have landed. This is just one group. At one time, just in Dallas-Fort Worth, we had 80 career networking groups, and the numbers have just gone up. Here in Dallas, Atlanta, most big cities, there are a lot of companies that have people that work there that were part of us at one time. So it's kind of one of those things. It's kind of a family-run kind of deal. So let's see. I want to introduce you guys to some people. I'll start with Trevor and Mark because we've got a wonderful event going on tomorrow you guys need to know about. A lot of you guys have been invited. A lot of you guys have seen it on LinkedIn. Every Wednesday you see us on the Who You Know Job Networking Show. God has provided a lot of opportunity for us to get information to you guys that you need to hear with your job search that can help you expedite. I think that's going to be my big word today, Mark. Expeditiously get that. Now, don't ask me how to spell it. But guys, this good-looking guy next to me here is Trevor Houston. He is very, very popular. A lot of you guys probably across the United States, a number of you got on YouTube, I'm quite sure. And sorry you guys can't be here to drink coffee with this morning. But if you're in California, our next meeting is going to be in August. Get your airplane tickets now. So, Trevor Houston, I'm going to mic him to tell you some stuff. Uh-oh. My mic is cutting out. We're going to try another mic, guys. I apologize, guys, on...
That's a mic drop.
That's a mic drop. Damn it. If I dropped it...
Don't do that.
YouTube, I'm sorry, guys. That was not my fault. That is technical, this and that. You know what I'm saying? So, let me tell you again, this good-looking guy here is Trevor Houston. You guys know him. See him. He's very, very popular on social media. And Trevor and Mark both. Right over there is Mark. I hope you guys can see Mark up there. Mark's got a bobblehead. He's so popular. He looks like his bobblehead. So guys, we all have the spirit God put inside of us to try to help job seekers get that next level job, whatever that next assignment from God's going to be. And that's what it's all about. Well, over the years that we have been in existence, this network is gigantic. We are probably in 25 states, much due to these gentlemen here. And so I'm going to let Trevor talk to you guys and tell you about what's going on tomorrow. We're going to have Sal Vergara with us. We're going to be expeditious this morning. There's a few people we're going to meet. And then we'll bring Sal up, and he's going to tell us some wonderful things. So here's Trevor. Here's Trevor. I don't look like Johnny Carson.
Can I get a round of applause for the best MC on the planet, Foster Williams? This guy's amazing. All right, so I will keep it short. We've got an amazing event planned tomorrow, okay? So if you've got this little flyer on your table, I put some out there. There is a QR code right here. You can go ahead and scan that and register. The event starts at 1:30. It's at Real News PR Studios. And guys, we're going to get to really show some love and pour out some love on you guys, hopefully fill your cup. I know the job search can be rough, so you're not only going to get some motivation, some education, some inspiration, okay, but you're also going to get some knowledge, some practical tips that you can apply in your career search. And it's just a fun time, guys. This is the way that we get to serve our community, is really just pouring out. And so we want you to come out. On the back, you're going to see the agenda here. And I've got some people lined up. If you don't know who Amelia Antonetti is, I would just recommend Googling her name. If you haven't heard of her before, just Google her name, and you'll see what she's all about. She's only created, like, I think 10 like $100 million companies. Only like 10 of them created and sold. She's a pretty big deal. Anyway, she's going to be here, and we've got just an amazing event planned for you, so make sure you go ahead and register. How many of you are registered? I saw William. I saw Gary. All right, love that. All right, so I need everybody else's hand to go up. Just scan the code, register for the event, and we'll see you tomorrow. All right, I'll hand it over to Mark.
All right, thanks, Trevor. Thanks, Foster, and good morning, everybody. Good morning. All right, that was pretty good, given that we're in the job search and everything. So I've got two things, and I'll keep it brief too. First thing, part of the Who You Know show as a network, we have started the Vet SOS show. So that is a show that's designed to bring awareness about veteran service organizations around the country for active duty folks that are transitioning into the civilian sector, military families, veterans, so anybody that's tied with or associated to the military. There's a lot of great information we'll be pumping out through that show. It airs on Tuesday afternoons and Friday midday, so Tuesday at 4:30 and Friday at 11:30. We've got some great guests already have their episodes out, so you can also go to our YouTube channel, the Who You Know channel on YouTube, and get the Vet SOS content as well. Now, separately and independently, Trevor and I own Clear Path Wealth Strategies, and we are actually hiring right now. So I'm not going to do my usual spiel. I'm going to talk about some positions that we're actually hiring for. We're looking for some internal support staff and producers. So we're actually hiring. If you or you know somebody that is interested in the financial services industry, we would love to have a conversation with them or with you. So contact me. My information is back on the back table. I think I've got some cards back there. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Keep positive, keep active. Those are the things that you can control, right? And the rest will fall into place. So hope to see you guys tomorrow. It's going to be a blast. And have a blessed morning and a blessed week.
Thank you, Mark. Mark's last name is Elder, and he's not the elder of Trevor and I, but we all hang in there. I'm the elder. Okay, guys, so I want you to meet, let's Bob Ernst, if you wouldn't come, did I say that? If you would come and join us and have a quick talk. Sal is on his way in, and what am I missing? Oh, okay. Guys, This is my man, 50 grand right here. This is Bob Ernst. Clap your hands, tell him thank you for your service. He's a Navy guy. He flew helicopters in the Navy for us that we might have some of the privileges that we have in the United States right now, so we appreciate that, Bob. Sure. Yeah. And I know you guys are missing the little four-legged help that he usually has with him for the last 3 meetings, but I forgot the dog's name. But anyway, what was the dog's name? Grace, but Gracie. Gracie let him off today, let him run around by himself. So you're not on a leash today, that's good. Okay, here's Bob Ernst, guys.
Thank you, sir. All righty, thanks, Foster. Appreciate it. As Foster mentioned, I volunteer at Canine Companions for service dogs for people with disabilities, veterans with PTSD. I flew helicopters for 28 years in the Navy and did a career change. So always talk to that part of the transition of, hey, maybe God's pushing you in a different direction. You maybe you're in a dying industry like retail or something like that. Maybe he's trying to push you somewhere else. So look where the jobs are. One of the industries, as Mark mentioned, is financial service industries. So Edward Jones is hiring for financial advisors, office administrators. We do all the training for that. It's a great career field, booming industry. We're going to be hiring for the next 20 years. So we'll train you up, we'll help you. So if that's something that interests you, come talk to myself or Rob Parrish in the back. Be glad to help you out. It's a recession-proof industry, so you don't have to worry about, oh, there may be a big recession coming up. As long as you're running a profitable and ethical business, you'll have a job for life. So it's a great thing. I'm glad I made the move. I didn't go to the airlines and be in the union and be the low person in the union, even though I have 28 years experience. So you get paid for what you're worth, so it doesn't matter who you are, if you're young, you're old. There's no ageism, anything like that. There's no racism or sexism. If you're doing the work, you're going to get paid the most. So it's a great opportunity for you. So come talk to me or Rob afterwards. I got to leave a little bit early, so LinkedIn, my last name is Ernst, E-R-N-S-T. Bob Ernst, connect with us on LinkedIn. Be glad to help you out. Thank you, Foster.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks a lot. Couple of more folks to meet, guys. I want to invite Pete Hernandez to come up, talk a little bit about a couple of other groups that we have going on, and good networking information in the general. So this good-looking guy is Pete. I'm surrounded by all these good-looking guys.
What happened to you?
I don't know what happened to me. But that's what we're here to do, guys. We're here to help you guys know some things that are available for you while you're in job search. You can use some of these as tools. You will meet wonderful people along the way. Here is Pete.
Thank you, Foster. Real quick, I see Sal's already here. So first thing I want to talk about is our HR group tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock, only via Zoom. If you want to find out how to reach us on YouTube, you can go to careerdfw.org, go to the calendar section, and under Wednesday at 10 a.m., you'll see our Zoom link right there. Highly encourage you to join us. Tomorrow we have Diana Alt talking to us about what you should not put on your resume. So it'd be a good conversation to have with her, having her speak to us. And I highly encourage all of you to join us on the HR group. You do not have to be on HR. Think about the discussion. Think about the people you will meet. Recruiters, HR people, office management, legal, admins, all those people typically join us. We also have people who are not in the HR field join us because they want to meet these people, because guess what? They're going to land. And when they land, you have an inside source at that company who's in the HR field or talent acquisition. So by all means, join us tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. We meet on the first and third Wednesdays. So if we're at Frisco Connect, that means the next day we're going to be at the HR group. So please join us. Secondly, after you're done with the HR group at 1 o'clock, I want you to navigate over to the practice interview team. Our friend Mark McDonald is usually here talking about this. He's out today. So I'll tell you briefly, it's a two-prong approach. We either teach you about interviewing, meaning we have speakers, we have videos we can show you and stuff like that about the right and wrong way to do your interviewing, including knowing your star stories and all that. And we also set up practice interviews. So if you need to practice for an upcoming interview, whether it's upcoming now or you already have a job in mind, or whether it's something that you just want to practice for, just get a generic job description out there, send us your resume, and we'll be happy to set up an interview for you so you can practice. We have a wonderful panel of people who have been interviewing people their whole lives as managers, directors, whatever. So they'll put you through all the paces, and oftentimes we hear that the practice interview we put you through is harder than the actual interview you went through. So you'll definitely practice for that. We'll get you ready. And by the way, you're not limited to doing it once. If you feel that you want to practice over and over again, by all means, reach out to us. We'll be happy to set up an interview for you. So again, Mark McDonald normally does his out. By the way, I say a prayer for him. He's recovering from an illness, so he'll hopefully be with us on October 4th when we reconvene. But anyway, that's all I got, Foster. Thank you very much,
That's
sir.
good.
All right, man.
Thanks, Pete. And for you guys that are on, YouTube, especially Leora's group up in New York, guys, please connect with me, Foster Williams. If you have not seen already the meeting notices that have gone out for the HR group tomorrow, and we're going to have Diane Alt, as Pete said, talking about what you should not have on your resume moving forward in your job search. So that'll be good tomorrow. So if you connect with me, I will get your email address and I will send you the meeting notice. You'll have the Zoom link and all that on there. Okay, one more somebody that we want to meet. You definitely want to meet this fella. His name is Judge Bugbee. The last name, Bugbee. I love saying this. You spell it, it's a bug and a bee. Put them together. You got Judge. All right, Judge.
Good morning, everybody. Yes, my part of the program is talking about the job report, which is our digital interactive newsletter that goes out the Monday prior to all of the Frisco Connect events. So it went out yesterday, and if you want to get a copy of it, or if you would like to be added to the distribution list, just send an email to the job report FC for Frisco Connect at gmail.com. Once I get that, I'll send you yesterday's report, add you to the distribution list, and then you will receive that on October the 3rd prior to our next meeting on October the 4th. If at any time you decide you do not want to get the subscription anymore, there's a very simple unsubscribe button. I will give you a word of warning that if you hit block, I can never put you back on there unless you put yourself back on there, because once you block it, it kills that email address forever. So be careful. If you don't want it, just unsubscribe. If you really hate us, block it, I guess. But anyway, it's really good because what it has is all of the detailed information for all of the meetings that we've just talked about, all of the Zoom times, all of the meeting times, the locations, the days, any pertinent information about any of the local networking meetings. It also gives you all of the information about the local learning processes that are going on, how the pit crew, anything that's going on. If there's a Microsoft Word class going on or an Excel class, if it happens to be going on. Now, what you'll find in the job report is it'll only give you the information for the next 2 weeks, because on that third Tuesday, we're back together again. So we're not trying to overwhelm you with a lot of information, but we want to keep you busy for the next 2 weeks to help you in your next job search. So in addition, on the job report, you will have any of the open and active job fairs that might be going on in the area, and I think there's 3 or 4 in these next 2 weeks. One of them, I think, is a virtual, and I think the other ones are all live. And for example, if you need to register, it'll tell you in there that you need to register before you show up, because the last thing you want to do is head down to Market Center in Dallas and go and they say, well, you're not registered. I'm sure they'd register there, but it just gives you the ability to register prior to going to the event. Also on the job report, there's a list of all the open and active jobs from some of our corporations that support Frisco Connect. So if you are in the IT industry, and this doesn't mean in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, this means anywhere. Carly Weiner is a fantastic contact, and all of her information and all of her open jobs that she's trying to fill right now are listed in the job report. We also have the open and active jobs from Babbage and Associates. So that's all listed on there. You can see where they're located, what the job is. Click a button and it opens up the complete job description. So again, that's the job report. I hope it helps you guys immensely finding your next great career. And, you know, sign up, get that report, and you'll have it today. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you very much. And now, guys, I want you to introduce you guys to my longtime friend, Sal Vergara. Now, Sal works for a company called HRQ, and it does what it sounds like it does, guys. Maybe your company has a need to strategize something in your HR department. Maybe you don't have an HR department. You need to know what to do. You want to contact Sal. Sal is going to share with us 3 pillars of job transformation today, and you guys will understand why his company is so powerful. But you definitely want to connect with Salvador Vergara. I had to pronounce it right. Salvador. Good to see you, Sal.
Good seeing you.
Oh, you're all mic'd
I'm
up.
mic'd
Good.
up.
I don't even have to give you mine.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll get out of the way. Guys, this good-looking guy here is Sal Vergara. I'm going to get out of his way so I don't mess him up anymore.
Morning, everyone. Glad to be here. It's been a couple years pre-COVID since I've last been here. So thank you very much. As Foster alluded to, my name's Sal Vergara, Vice President of Client Solutions for a company called HRQ. As Foster mentioned, we are an HR national consulting firm. We also do business consulting as well. And I am responsible for leading the efforts of expanding our consulting offerings and engagements across the U.S. So what we're going to cover today is called the 3 pillars of transformation. I actually started this workshop to help, ironically, senior HR professionals who were in transition. And so I created this. I learned very quickly that the higher level the individual is in terms of their role, the less prepared they were to look for a job. Sort of like the cobbler's kids have no shoes. They espoused and conveyed the things that we all should do, but they didn't practice it themselves. So I created this workshop. I always think of when you're looking for a new career, you dissect it into 3 sections, and those are the 3 pillars. And the first one's the behavioral and attitude. The second one is tactical, and the third one is strategic. So we're going to go through all of those. I want this to be interactive, so please, if you have any questions, I don't know if we can get questions from the audience on YouTube, but here live, obviously, if you've got any questions, please let me know.
And YouTube will be it's monitored, so
Okay, great.
John will ask the question.
Excellent. So I started again, 3 pillars of transformation. I actually, thank you very much, John. I do this in partnership with the Cowboys. I did this workshop back in June for military vets and former pro athletes. And then this coming year, in October, I'll do one for women in crisis. December 1st will be Salute to Service, so for veterans as well. And then in January for first responders. So regardless of who the audience is, the basic fundamentals of what we're going to cover is applicable to anyone. So the ground rules. I should have brought my glasses because I can't see. Let go of any preconceived notions and establish a clean slate. I think oftentimes, this is the first step is for all of you to get here, come here on a weekly basis. For those of you on YouTube to tune in. Just come in with a clean slate, let go of any preconceived notions that you might have about your career strategy. Think big and beyond your comfort level. I think oftentimes we kind of confine ourselves to what we want to do or what we aspire to do, and we often fall back on what's comfortable. So we want you to think a little bit big and outside. This is especially applicable for vets and for athletes who sometimes feel like they're confined in what kind of profession that they're going to pursue. Every one of you are a salesperson. I've been in sales for 30 years. Every one of you in this room is a salesperson. Every one of you watching on YouTube is a salesperson. Every engagement that you have, and any conversation that we might have in an elevator, at Starbucks, at a restaurant, you are a salesperson. You are selling yourself. So it's really that change, that mindset. You are really kind of espousing and conveying what your personal brand is. So think that you are a salesperson, especially when you're looking for a new career. There are no stupid questions. Now, obviously, if there's a group here, if you have questions, please don't hesitate. There are no stupid questions. New questions come up all the time in these workshops, so please don't hesitate. And please don't feel reluctant. None of these are irrelevant. We all want to hear what each one of you are thinking and make sure that you feel like you're not alone. Because a lot of times you think that you're the only one with the question. Oftentimes everyone else in the room is thinking the same thing, but they're not willing to ask. Yes, sir.
Yes, Sal, I just want to mention that if people post questions on the YouTube stream, I will interrupt you with the question.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. Be vulnerable and support each other. Obviously, the fact that you are sitting in this room, you are supporting each other. Be vulnerable. There is strength in vulnerability, meaning we can't help you. Foster, Mark, Trevor, none of us can help you if you're not honest with us. So please feel free to be honest and vulnerable. Support each other, especially in your words and what your actions are. So behavioral and attitude, that's pretty simple. That we'll go by this fairly quickly. Strength and vulnerability, embrace the challenge. I know it's easier said than done. I am empathetic. I've been laid off twice in my career, so I know how it feels. I know what kind of challenges and how that emotionally impacts you, but embrace that challenge because the way I look at it, it's a new opportunity. It's a new venue or avenue for you to go into a new career. I was a mortgage banker for 14 years right out of school. I got out in 2008. If you guys remember, 2008 was the implosion of the industry and the economy. I decided at that point whether I continue down that path or do I start a new career. And I kind of took a leap of faith. You know, I trusted in God and what I should do and decided to take a leap of faith. And so I started from the bottom. I was a manager as a mortgage banker. And then started as an account executive at the bottom with Career Builder, which now has led me to this life and this career now. So embrace that challenge. Reset before you interact. And it's very appropriate because a lot of times you come in, you're either depressed or you're ticked off, you're mad, you're angry that you've gone through many interviews and nothing has happened. You have to reset before you interact, especially in an environment like this. In fact, I think two or 3 years ago when I did this, this room was packed. And I would talk to a few folks and I'd say, well, what would you like to do? What is that you aspire to do? What's your next role? Some of them, if not all of them, would say, I don't care, I just need a job. That's not really the right thing to say, especially in this environment. It's a safe environment to say that, and especially to me because of what I do. But that's certainly not what you want to convey when you're talking to a recruiter. You don't know if I'm a recruiter or a hiring manager. Desperation is not something you want to convey. So when I say reset before you interact, my recommendation for those folks is to kind of sit back, kind of reset your head, your attitude, and your behavior, because when you're conveying that desperation, that doesn't come off very well. So it's all human. We all feel it. But again, be very conscious and cognizant of how you convey yourself, especially in a networking situation or something like this. It's okay, as I said here, be vulnerable. So it's okay to say that here necessarily to me. But as you're networking, if you're going out to industry events, make sure that you don't say those things. This period is just an extension of your story. Again, it's kind of cliche and it's not meant to be flippant or innocuous, but this is just another chapter in your career. And again, I've had to start over a couple times, and I just look at it as a new opportunity to find something bigger and better. You win or you learn. So you win. Now, winning means you win the job. That winning means you either win the next step in the interview process, or you win by learning what you don't want. If you're turned down by a job, you learn, hey, I probably shouldn't have said something. I should have been more prepared. Or this isn't the job that I really want. I think destiny and fate, I'm a big believer in that. And if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. And I don't think you should put a square peg in a round hole, basically. So you either win or you learn. Get rid of that, gosh, I lost that job. No, you learn that that's not the job for you, or you learn how to prepare better for the next interview. Any questions that you might have or concerns? YouTube? No one? All right, excellent. So the second pillar is called tactical. Now think of this as you have to be deliberate and intentional in what you're doing. Think of the tactical pillar as all the basic fundamental things that you need to get prepared before you go into your career search. Be very prepared to do a personal value proposition. Does anyone know what that means, a personal value proposition? It's another word for something that Foster has probably said multiple times. Elevator pitch. So literally, if you bump into someone in an elevator, what would you tell me that you'd like to do? My first, I call it In Transformation Network session, I had 10 senior HR professionals, 4 of them are CHROs, Chief Human Resource Officers. The exercise that I did was I went around the room and asked them, hey, give me your elevator pitch. If we literally were to bump into Starbucks or in an elevator, what would you say? They all laughed. They all were nervous. They said, Sal, you're making me nervous. And I'm like, I'm nobody. If I'm making you nervous, you've got to stand in front of a board. You've got to stand in front of the executive leadership team to be able to espouse and convey what you want to do. Be prepared with a personal value proposition. And also be very conscious about not making it into a Facebook post. You want to think about it as a Twitter post. And that's okay. I think oftentimes we forget and we try to elaborate. But remember, sometimes you have, not sometimes, most of the time, you have a finite number of seconds, if not minutes, to convey what you want to do and what you aspire to do. So try to keep that as concise as possible, and try to think of something less job description-y, if you know what I mean. Try to be more organic, more authentic about what you want to do and how you can impact the company. So, personal value proposition, really number one, what you need to be prepared with. Prepare. Do your homework with the company, people, performance, and news. So, very easy. Go on LinkedIn, go on Google. If you can find out who you're interviewing with, find out who those folks are. Go look on their LinkedIn profile. Don't worry about it, they'll see that you looked. To me, if I'm interviewing someone and I see that they've looked on my profile, that means they're doing their homework. So look what they've done in their career, look at the company, and look at their performance. Most company annual reports are public, so you can look at it, what kind of news or what kind of impact they've had over the past year. Performance of the company, so again, annual report. Any kind of news, like they acquired someone, or they were acquired, or they're going through a massive layoff. Those are red signs or red flags, but what you're trying to do is get intel so that in your interview you have organic, authentic questions to ask. So you're prepared with that, and we'll get to that in a few minutes, what you're going to do with this kind of information. So cliche, prepare and do your homework. People, the performance of the company itself, and even the competitors. So you could talk to it intelligently about who those folks might be competing with. Cliche, optimize your resume and your LinkedIn profile, and you want to own your own narrative. I think the biggest misconception that people have, even colleagues of mine in my own company, is that they look at LinkedIn as just a platform of when I need a job. That they just use that to look for people, they don't spend a whole lot of time on it, and once they find a job, they don't even touch it anymore. For LinkedIn and for a lot of us in this profession, I use it as development of business. So I'm identifying companies that I could talk to, identifying people that I could talk to, but it's also a commercial for yourself. Basically, it's a digital resume, and that's the easiest, most fast way for recruiters and hiring managers to find you and to identify whether or not you're a good fit. And we're going to go over some of the basics of LinkedIn. But make sure that you update your resume. I'm not looking for a job, but I have it updated. If Foster were to say, hey, can you send me your resume, I'd be able to send him one that is updated with statistics, any quantitative stuff that I've done already thus far. Be prepared. Always be prepared so you don't have to get ready. Don't Casper anyone. Does anyone know what I mean by that? Don't ghost anyone. And that's an unfortunate issue that's happening. And as candidates, as job seekers, it's been done to us, it's been done to me with some very big companies who ghost you. They don't get back with you. Please don't do the opposite, because you'll carry that tale for the rest of your career. And you'll carry that into any kind of job search or career strategy or career search in the future. Don't Casper anyone. Make sure that if someone reaches out to you, even if they don't reciprocate, you want to be a level higher and you want to respond to them. That could be via email, a phone call. I know Trevor and Mark and Foster are big on bomb or any kind of video messaging. That's something that differentiates yourself, and we're going to go over some of that stuff here in just a little bit. But again, do not Casper anyone. Always make sure that you respond to someone who reaches out to you, even if they don't reciprocate. Back to basics. Please and thank you. Do what your mama told you, what she taught you when you were younger. Please and thank you. That is an email, a handwritten note. I've been doing handwritten notes here for a while now. That kind of differentiates myself. It takes 5 minutes, if that, to do a quick handwritten note. And for me, it means a lot. We just bought a stationary bike at Nebraska Furniture Mart, and the salesperson that sent us a handwritten card, which I still have because I think that's a great example of follow-up. And that you don't have to be in sales, but just in general, how that means from a communication perspective and how that develops a nice relationship, and your personal brand, how that develops a very high integrity of what you do. So back to basics. There are some video messaging platforms, BombBomb. I know the guys talk about it quite a bit. There's another one called Soapbox that I use. And basically, it's just like what these guys have been a commercial for. Instead of, or in lieu of, a written email, I record a video saying, hey, Foster, thanks for having me today. I appreciate it. If you need any help, let me know. And then attach that in an email. And so instead of text, they just have a link. And so when I first started doing it, the feedback I got was, wow, no one ever does this. So it does differentiate yourself. So if that's something that you want to do, especially within your career search, differentiate yourself.
Sal, are you familiar with Loom?
No, sir. Loom.
Another one of the a free platform.
Excellent. So that Loom, Soapbox, BombBomb, those are all great platforms. Some of them, I know Soapbox and BombBomb have fairly affordable rates that you could use, but I think it's a good investment to help you differentiate yourself. Any other questions before we move on? I know this is kind of hard to see up here with the screen size, but your resume format, don't get all funky, and especially if you're just looking for something that's traditional. I would stay with something fairly traditional. Although, unless you are in a really innovative field like graphic design, I think a lot of folks can be a little bit more adventurous there. But I think for the most part, you should err on the side of formality and kind of conservative. So these are some of the formats that you might see. There are a lot of free resume formats online that you could choose from. So again, keep your resume up to date, even if you have a job. Don't insert a photograph. I know that's kind of controversial for some folks. There might be unconscious bias. It's a thing, unconscious bias. And someone may look at you, someone may look at me and say, no, that dude doesn't look right. He's got a weird haircut, or he's not professional enough, or that person looks too old. They may not be innovative enough. So whether we want to admit to it or not, there is unconscious bias. So I recommend you don't insert a photograph unless it's specifically asked, unless that company specifically asked. Compress that into 2 pages. I'm a little bit of a hypocrite there because mine is 3. I try to compress it as much as possible, but try to do it from within 2 or 3 pages, and we're going to go over here from a format and content perspective what to put in there. Leave off address, and I usually say this to females, and not to be sexist or anything like that. I think from a safety perspective, for anyone, men or women, but especially for women, don't think it's very smart to put your address on there, and again, for guys as well. They don't need to know where you live. You're going to put that information when you apply for a job anyway, so I would leave that off. It's okay to leave the city, your cell phone number, and your email address, but I would leave any kind of personal identifying information like your address off.
Maybe a zip code.
Maybe a zip code, yes, to give them an idea. But although you might not, I live in Wiley and I may not mind to work in Fort Worth. So for me, I don't want anyone to preclude me from consideration if they say, oh, he lives out in Wiley, he's not going to want to come over here. So that's just something to think of. Highlight your most marketable skills in bullet point. Oftentimes I see folks who all it is a regurgitation of job description. So if somebody has on their title sales manager, every one of us knows what is encapsulated in what a sales manager does. Maybe not specifically for that company, but just in general. It's not necessary to go through that regurgitation of the job description. In fact, most recruiters, Foster will probably agree, when he sees that, he'll just keep flipping because you're not being creative, you're not telling them, the hiring managers or the recruiters, how you're going to impact their company. So, highlight your most marketable skills in bullet point first. Think quantitative, not job description. So kind of to reiterate what I just said, don't go into the company website and just click and paste the job description. That's not going to cut it. You need to describe to the hiring manager and the recruiter how you're going to impact the company and what you've done. They want to see exactly, hey, I've cut turnover by 30%, or I cut cost by 26% year over year. They want to see those statistics rather than what you did, because again, your title will identify and explain intrinsically what you do for a living. Any questions before we go on there? All right, professional summary. It's okay to brag. I oftentimes get people who are like, I don't want to brag. This is also very prevalent in the military community. They're not braggers, and that's just something in a mindset that they've created within the military. And I say it's okay to brag. You are your own advocate. You have to sell yourself. You are a salesperson. So if you did something that's extraordinary, put it on there. We want to see exactly what you've done. It's not bragging, it's highlighting some of the accomplishments that you've done above and beyond your general duties. Include the dates, and I put here include military roles. It's controversial too whether or not people want to put their military service. If you served, and if I look at your resume, to me that already conveys that you are you don't buckle under pressure. You are probably a very good leader. You're a good follower. You're a good organizer. You might be a good project manager. So for me, if you served in the military, I would put that on there. John, do you have a question?
Yes, Sal. As far as putting dates, does that kind of move you into the ageism thing?
Yes. So it's kind of unavoidable. And there, at some point, there's a cutoff of how far you go back. And I think, Foster, if you want to jump in here. For those who have a long career, I go back all the way to 94. That's not too far back, but 94. I do put it on there, but my description in my resume and my LinkedIn profile is a little shorter. So I've compressed that so I can focus more and put more content in the more recent ones. At some point, I think you do cut off, especially if you were a sacker. I was a sacker at Kroger. That's not something I would put. I worked at J. Riggings and Chess King in retail. No one's going to care that I did that, so I don't put that on there. But from a professional perspective, there is at some point where you cut off, because if it's not relevant to what you're doing now, it's okay to leave off. Foster.
YouTubers, you probably have ascertained what that question was, and it was, how far back do we go? Do we put dates on our impertinent information in our resume? And honestly, going back probably, I wouldn't go back any past probably 15 years. A lot of times what's going to happen is a lot of eyes that are going to watch or look at your experience. A number of companies are buying new technologies, they're implementing new technologies, they want to know what you're going to be, what your experience has been with things that are probably no more than 10 years old. So you don't want to go back too far. If you go back too far, it's going to get into a point where it's probably not relevant to what they're looking for. Also, well, maybe Foster doesn't want to let anybody know he's been recruiting for 40 years. I know I don't look my age.
Yes, sir. I completely agree with what you just said, except unless the job you are applying for, that past experience is very relevant. If I was a project manager 20 years ago and I'm applying for something that has a heavy component in project management, I'm going to put down that I did project management 20 years ago, because that's relevant to the job I'm applying for now. So I would agree otherwise that, yeah, 15 years is probably a good, far enough back to go, unless there's a lot of relevancy to that job 20, 25 years ago that still applies to the job you're applying for now. In that case, I'm going to include it to make sure they know I've been there and done that.
Excellent. Good question. Include your education, certifications, and designations. So a lot of times folks forget to put their education. It's important if you've got certifications or licenses that you put that on there. Again, from a date perspective, I don't think that you need to put your date, especially if ageism is of concern. So I think I might actually put my date on there, but there are a lot of folks that don't on your college, if you've done that college degree or anything like that. But certainly if you've got advanced degrees, if you've got licenses and certifications, especially in your field of work and the vertical that you're in, definitely put that in there. Philanthropic activities. A lot of folks forget to put any kind of volunteer work. We as recruiters and hiring managers and companies, we want to see a well-rounded individual that not only contributes to the company, but also the community. So if you do anything, I'm a member of the Professional Career Advisor for a nonprofit called Merging Vets and Players. Habitat for Humanity, Red Cross, the United Way, anything like that. If you do work with those organizations, put that on there. We want to see exactly what you're doing on your free time from a philanthropic perspective. All right, so again, kind of hard to see here, but this is an example of what I put for one of my roles. It's less heavy on the job description. It's real heavy on what I did from an accomplishment perspective. So being number 1 and 2 in the company at some point in my career, from being a high salesperson, from a ranking perspective, those are things that an organization who's looking for business development and sales wants to see. They know what a salesperson does, so you don't necessarily have to regurgitate that in your content. Now, this is applicable for LinkedIn and also your resume. So format-wise, this is what I suggest: a real brief description of what you did, and then bullet point the high accomplishments or any kind of the accolades that you may have received when you were in that particular role.
Question, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Your resume should not equal your profile on LinkedIn. Is that accurate?
No, actually, that's we're going to get it. The good question. So the question was, your resume should not match your LinkedIn profile. I've always conveyed to the folks that I talk to, it should mirror your resume. It should literally, what I suggest is you create your resume so that if you've not created a LinkedIn profile, it's pretty easy just to cut and paste. So think of LinkedIn as your digital resume. And you have a lot more latitude in what you could put in there because there's a lot more space. Plus you could really be a little more creative in your LinkedIn profile. There's a lot of things where you can add projects. There's a certain section in LinkedIn that you could highlight any kind of projects. So short answer, yes, it should mirror your resume. So from a template perspective, I would fix your resume first and then create that LinkedIn profile by just simply cutting and pasting. Did you have something to say, Foster?
Yeah. You're getting into my world. I love this stuff. Guys, make sure that your LinkedIn profile is a good outline of the experience that you want to relay. Now, when you send your resume, you're going to send your resume, you're going to craft that resume towards that job description. So a lot of the details are going to be in that resume. And on LinkedIn, you don't want to limit yourself and just have your LinkedIn towards that particular application of what the company's looking for. So if you have an overview, that LinkedIn can be a good overview, and then we get into the details with the resume. So when the company or the recruiter or the hiring manager goes and looks at your LinkedIn profile, they will see, like Sal is saying, the same company, same, I was a project manager here this long, all that stuff. They will see that on that resume. And then, Sal, if I may jump back to the conversation about volunteerism.
Yes.
Guys, if you can, if your volunteering is relevant to your job search in the direction that you're going, especially, I don't want to pick on IT people, and it doesn't have to be all IT people, but if you get a chance to volunteer for what you do and what you do best, the companies want to hire you for your actual experience in doing that particular thing that they're asking for, and they really don't. It doesn't have a lot of it doesn't have to carry a lot of weight if it is volunteerism. If you learn how to do what we need to hire somebody to do, you have that knowledge, whether it's volunteer or you got paid for it. So something to think about. If you get an opportunity, as we get involved in our professional groups and things according to what our background is, a lot of times there are opportunities to volunteer in and around the very thing that we do. So that's going to add to the strength of your resume. I hope I explained that correctly.
You did. Again, to underscore, put that work down, and if you do have an opportunity to volunteer for those things that are supportive of the industry you're in, do it. And also, it came to mind, you mentioned something. It's okay to have different versions of your resume depending on what role you are pursuing. We don't want you to be, which I'll go over here in just a minute, you don't want to send out your resume everywhere and just, spray and pray kind of thing. Right. But what you do want is you want to customize you don't want to do shotgun effect of just, let's see what sticks. You want to customize the resume to highlight some of those things that are specific to that role. Right. So it's okay. I think I have 2 or 3 different versions of mine depending on what I want to pursue.
In some of these applicant tracking systems, if we see applications to 3, 4, 5 different type of opportunities in there, we're gonna smell the desperation.
Yep.
We don't want the desperation. We want to hire you for what you've had the most experience doing, and if that, hopefully that is relevant to a need that we have in that company.
Yep. Within our own system, within our company, we flag folks that just show up for every role, and they're very vastly different roles. They're just looking for a paycheck. So that's a red flag for us. On your LinkedIn profile, do insert a professional photograph. So at my workshops, I have a professional photographer that gives complimentary headshots. If you get an opportunity to do that, even if you pay for them, they're not very expensive if you go to some places. I would take the time to invest in it, especially if you are in a career search mode right now. Don't put party pic from, your fraternity party back in 1993 or sometime at the beach. You want to put something professional that conveys that level of professionalism that you're aspiring to get to. Should mirror the information on your resume. So to your question, yes, it should mirror that. And make sure it's accurate, because sometimes there might be a different date on your resume that might show up on your LinkedIn profile. You just don't want to raise any eyebrows. It may just be an innocuous mistake, but you want to avoid that. So just make sure that you cross-check that the dates and information are correct. Focus on the highlights of what you accomplished in your roles. Again, just the same thing as on your resume. Skip the job description. Really focus on bullet pointing, all the accolades. Get not referrals, but at the very bottom there. Not recommendations, but I can't think of the word at the bottom of LinkedIn. You can get people to endorse you, endorsements. So that allows other folks to sell you, in fact, so especially if it's a client, customer, a colleague, those are very powerful because those are someone else's words, pumping you up. So I would encourage you to reach out to folks to endorse you. It's very easy to do that via LinkedIn. And also, kind of segue into another thought that just popped in my head. In your career search strategy, create your own personal board of directors. I don't know if anyone's ever, raise your hand if someone's ever suggested that. So what I mean by that is pick 3 or 4 people that you trust that will give you a no BS assessment of you and you're pointing people that will give you a very honest assessment of what you're doing as in your profession and you as a person. That way, when you're interviewing for a job, I can say, hey, Foster, do you think this is a good fit for me? And Foster says, yes, that's great. Or, no, I don't really see you in that role, dude. It doesn't fit you. You want that level of honesty and objectiveness. And so I have former colleagues, former bosses who I consider very dear friends of mine, who would tell me, yes, this is a good choice for you. Also, from a negotiation perspective, from a salary standpoint, I go to my old bosses and say, is this fair? Should I ask for more? Is that too much? And so create that board of directors. It could be, again, a family member, a former colleague, a boss, a former boss, et cetera. But I highly encourage you to have the fallback on those folks that give you that objective perspective.
We call that telling the truth in love.
Yes, sir. Exactly. Again, include volunteering, any philanthropic activities. You want to humanize yourself. Again, your resume and your past accomplishments will tell them what you do for a living as far as professionally, but they do want to see what you do from a community perspective and how you give back. For me, I highly recommend, and not everyone follows this, I'd avoid any kind of religious or political posts. If you're okay with halving your chances of getting a job, go for it. If you're not, I would keep those to yourself, both political and professional. Even as innocuous as liking something, that shows up on a wall. If Foster likes something, I see it. So you secretly endorse and we'll see it, the people that you're connected to. So I'm not trying to tell you to stifle who you are. I'm not telling you what political side to straddle. I'm just saying, especially when you're in a career search, I would keep that as ambiguous and as objective as possible, because you are going to literally split in half your chances. And if you're okay with that, cool. But just be wary or aware of that when you do something like that, when you say something, hey, good for you, Mr. President, or former, whatever. That's going to sway someone's unconsciously. Yes, ma'am.
So when you're in the job search, do you recommend making sure you don't have any of that information on your personal social media as well?
That's controversial, because your personal stuff we shouldn't be able to tell you what you believe on your personal time. The reality is people will look. That's the reality. And Foster can attest to this. Mark and Trevor will too. They will look. I look. I'll be honest with you. I look at their to see if it's unsavory, and sometimes it's a red flag for folks. There's no easy answer for that, because no one should be able to stifle anyone's individuality or what they believe in. That's my personal opinion. In reality, it does impact the way people perceive you, especially in a job search. Mm-hmm. So,
one of them. Maybe I'm saying this because I've been recruiting. I've been a recruiting leader for years. But one of the things that we recruiters should be doing is building a relationship. I knew I was going to come out with that word, didn't you, Pete? Is building a relationship with those that we are serving. Well, we serve hiring managers. We get to know those hiring managers, and we sit down and we find out what idiosyncrasies that they like, they don't like, all that sort of stuff. Those things that they don't particularly like might be something that's in your social media profile. So I think there is a way we can limit our social media profile to the professional, this is what you see, and then, you know, the private stuff you share with all your friends and all that sort of thing. So it's just something to think about. It shouldn't be anything that stops you from being you, just like Sal said, but it's something to think about.
and limit, I mean, not to be oversimplified, but you could limit who sees your personal socials footprint. You know, make it private so that only friends can see it.
Right.
So there are ways to avoid that. I've got stuff on my Instagram and Twitter and Facebook that I wouldn't necessarily be embarrassed if it was on LinkedIn. It's a bunch of puppy pics, chihuahuas, my wife, my godkids. Yeah, your family. So I wouldn't be embarrassed. Okay, well, maybe my names of my dogs, but so just be mindful of that. Like Foster said, don't stifle that from being yourself.
Yeah,
Yes,
I think it's okay. I mean, as a hiring manager, if I saw some of that, honestly, I'd be okay with it because, like you said, it's your own personal style. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for or what you believe in. What I look out for is any ranting. If you're on a rant about something, now I'm going to get nervous because now I'm going to hire you. You're going to be doing that in my
Right.
office.
Yep.
And that's what I get nervous about. Not about the fact you voted for this person or believe this or believe that. I'm okay with all that because everybody's got their own beliefs. It's the ranting when you're on a subject and just continually rant about it. And I've reached out to people on Facebook that I know were in a job search and said, you might want to cool this.
Yep.
And, they'll get mad. It's like, fine, I'm just telling you.
I have
But
too.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to rant about something, then yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And also, I've seen some of my friends and family members who post things on Facebook that are disparaging their employer. I'm like, that's not smart. Or their job. I'm like, you better make sure this is private. So if you see something, say something, which I do, and it's not always taken very well, but I'm looking out for them.
Don't get a gun and put it to your head. That is a gun to your head.
Yep. All right, make it easy for recruiters and hiring managers to find you. So you do that by adding SEO words to your LinkedIn profile. So in your profile, you can put a bio, and at the bottom, so I have a bio that says I'm a husband, I'm a goddad, I'm a funkle, a fun uncle, dad to fur babies. So it humanizes me. I'm not a machine. I'm a human being. So, but it then also summarizes very nicely what I've done in my career, what I want to do. But then at the bottom of that, and I encourage everyone, let me preface by saying mine is not the perfect LinkedIn profile, but we all know, most of us know Craig Fisher. Oh, yeah. So Craig, I have done a lot of sessions with him, and Craig is a stalwart in the talent acquisition space. And LinkedIn actually hires him to teach LinkedIn employees how to use their own program. So I get a lot of my tips from him. So I encourage you guys to look at my LinkedIn profile because I take all the tips that I've learned from him and apply that to my own profile. If you're looking for me, it's my first name, Salvador, S-A-L-V-A-D-O-R, Vergara, V-E-R-G-A-R-A. So take a quick peek at that when you can. You'll see it in the part of my bio. I've just got a list of words that I want myself to be associated with: sales, consulting, talent acquisition, recruitment marketing, anything like that. That way, when hiring managers and recruiters are searching for me, those keywords are associated with my profile. So build that bank of SEO keywords and put that in your bio. Make it easy for recruiters to find you on LinkedIn. I can't get my sister, who's an older sister of mine, she cannot get on, she can't wrap her head around why. She's like, I'm looking for a job. I'm like, well, make yourself available, on LinkedIn. But we'll work on her. Family, I love her. Add some personalization to it, humanize it. Not everything I put on there is business-centric. So I'll probably post something about this today, or I'll post something that I've done with the Cowboys, or I've done the Who You Know show. So stuff like that that's not necessarily job-related, put that on there. They want to see activity that you're doing outside of your job, because that does make you a more well-rounded individual that can contribute to the company. You can leave your graduation date off. So a lot of people think that question was asked about ageism. I don't think it's necessary to put that on there. And quite frankly, I'll probably get chastised for this. A lot of companies don't necessarily look now at your degree. I think it's a cumulative look at what you've done and accomplished. Because I know a lot of folks who don't have a degree but have done tremendous work, and unfortunately they're overlooked because they don't have that piece of paper. And so I think from a recruiting perspective, we're trying to change that, at least within our company, to look at the body of work that the person's done versus the degree that they may have. Now, if all things were equal, yeah, you might lean towards someone who has a degree, but I would also look at what kind of stuff they do from a philanthropic perspective. That's another thing. So you want to start weighing those things out. How far do you go back? We talked about that earlier. 15 years is probably the best. And again, some of my past employment, I'll list it down just so they see exactly when I graduated, when I first job, second job, etc. But I won't go into great detail of what that was. Be your own cheerleader. You are your own advocate. Again, it's not bragging. It is highlighting the accomplishments that you've done above and beyond your job. So please don't forget to advocate for yourself and brag a little bit on your LinkedIn profile. So this is mine. If you see here, try to write something that's really descriptive. It has SEO keywords that you want to be associated with. Professional photograph, and then that's the workshop that I did at AT&T. You can change those out. So I would recommend that you change it up every now and again. I'll be changing that here pretty soon. So, any questions before we go to the last pillar? All right. So the last one is strategic. So you think about, we've done behavioral and attitude, getting your mind right, setting the right tone, tactical, resume, LinkedIn profile. Now we're talking about the strategic part, putting all that stuff together so that you can actually execute your plan. Presentation. So when you're interviewing, I know this seems innocuous, but I see it way too often, your backdrop. So we're now getting back into in-person events like this, but a lot of times, at least with our company too, if there's a company in New York that is interviewing someone in California, it is going to be remote. Think about what your backdrop says. So things to think about. Again, I know it seems innocuous or kind of nitpicky, but having a toilet seat up in the back there, not a good look. I know I'm fortunate enough to have a home office, so not everyone does. I would recommend a blank wall. I would avoid putting yourself in front of a window. Like, don't put yourself in front of a window. That ambient light, when a camera hits it, it drowns your face out. You can't see you. We can't see you. So even if you close the blinds, that ambient light still gets through. So I would get a door or a blank wall. It doesn't even have to be a blank wall, but I would have something solid behind you, not a bathroom with an open toilet seat. I see that way too often, and that does, again, that means nothing to their qualifications, but it is distracting. And you've got to think about that overall presentation. It's all about the way it looks.
Or the bedroom with an unmade bed.
Precisely. Now, we give a little bit of allowance for folks that are traveling. They're in a hotel room. They don't really have that choice, but agreed. That's another pet peeve of mine. Tools, do you have the right equipment? You don't have to go expensive on stuff like this. I've got a $30, I do a podcast. I have a $30 microphone. I think my camera's like 25 bucks. You can use your one on your laptop, but I recommend getting something separate so you can move it around. And I know some people are like, oh, I didn't need a light. Yes, you do. Get that vanity light behind you. I've got one of the big ones where, again, it was like 30 bucks on Amazon. Or when photographers take photos, they have those big box lights. That does make a difference, and especially from a presentation perspective, you want to set yourself apart. So make a little bit of investment on the way that looks, especially when you're doing something remote. And it doesn't necessarily have to be when you're interviewing, but also when you're doing business in general. Once you get that job, you want to continue that persona. Appearance, are you dressed appropriately? I think a lot of folks, especially during COVID, have started to be a little bit lax. I'm a little old school. I wore a suit for 14 years. I don't do that anymore. But most folks, Foster may have seen me on the newscast thing at home. So you'll see this part up. Down south, it'll be shorts and flip-flops. So just make sure that when you are interviewing that you're appropriate for the occasion. I always err on the side of formality. Even when I worked for software companies, I would show up and everybody's in flip-flops and cargo shorts. I still was in a suit, at least for the first time. Just from especially if you're interviewing, I would err on the side, unless they actually specifically say, hey, don't come dressed in a suit. You'll stick out, or you won't feel comfortable, or people will perceive you a little bit differently. If they actually instruct you and advise you to do something differently, I would do that. Otherwise, I'd err on the side of formality. Again, it's all presentation. You don't get a second chance for a first impression. Message, what does your body language say? So, especially, and I always do, and I know it sounds kind of hokey, but before I do a presentation on Zoom, I turn on the camera to see how I look. Especially when you're interviewing, the slouching or anything like that, it does convey something to the interviewer. So we always talk about mirroring your interviewer, especially if you're in person. I always lean into the camera if I'm doing something that's a little bit more assertive. Especially when you're interviewing, I would recommend you practice the way you look, because it does convey a certain sense of urgency or seriousness or enthusiasm or motivation. So again, things that you got to think about that you don't necessarily think about in the back of your head. Interview skills. So once you get to the interview, be prepared. I would highly recommend that you write questions out. Bring a book. It's okay to bring a notepad. Everyone says, well, I don't want to write notes. No, you do, because that shows preparation. I would prepare yourself with 5 questions to ask. And those questions it can be a derivation of this, or just kind of inspire you of what to ask. What was in my profile that was compelling to interview me? If you ask the interviewer that will allow you to get some intel of what they're thinking. That way, when I'm listening to them, I'm formulating questions based on what their response is to me. So now you've got more questions to ask that is organic based on what their response is. So what was in my profile that was compelling to interview me? How do you see me contributing to the role, in this role, in the company, or to this role? Have them articulate how they see you, and it's sort of this assumptive sale. You're already putting yourself in that role. Ask them what they think that you would do to help impact that role. Have them say it, because now when they respond to you, now you have an idea of what to formulate in your head as follow-up questions. And again, thematically, that's the whole point of asking questions, is to get intel from them so that you have something that you can formulate on the spot. What kind of advancement opportunities are there beyond this role? That really is sort of a red flag kind of question for you. If they're going to articulate to you like, well, you'll probably be in this role for 3 or 4 years, that may not be something you're interested in. For most people, they want advancement. And if a company can't articulate to you what those advancements will be, what kind of succession planning they have, that's another good question. What is your succession planning strategy within this company? What kind of upskilling do you folks do? What kind of leadership development programs do you have? If they don't have any of that, that's probably something you need to consider, because they're not investing a whole lot of time or money into the advancement of you. What types of skills is this team missing that you're looking to fill with me as a new hire? Again, you're getting intel of they're telling you what they saw in your profile that they think that you could do to contribute to this role. It's all intel that you're getting so that you can formulate new questions. And you can kind of elaborate. Well, I think I saw that you had, an enterprise level experience, and then you could start expanding on that with examples. Why is this role open? That's another red flag question for you. If, hey, you're the 5th person, we've let go of 5 people before you, well, why is that? Is it culture? Is it leadership? Is it compensation and benefits? Those are things that you need to know, because you don't have to say yes to the opportunity they give you. The information you're getting is going to allow yourself to make a qualified decision of whether or not that's a good role for you. So don't be afraid to ask that. I would highly recommend not to ask what the comp and benefits are at the first interview. Maybe the benefits of like what kind of things do you do, what kind of opportunities that we can have to volunteer, but certainly not comp. I think that's something that you need to wait for. A lot of times people ask, well, what's the comp and vacation look like? Don't ask that in the first question or the first interview.
Well, to that point, what if they ask you, if they bring it up, hey, this is the range, are you okay with that, or what kind of salary are you looking for? If they bring it up, you kind of have to address it.
So the question is, if they bring it up, hey, this is the comp and this is the benefits package, this is the vacation, are you good with that? That's a perfect example why you need to do your homework of what that role, what is commensurate with that role. Have an idea in your head what that range is. You don't necessarily have to give, for me, I don't think that you need to necessarily say and answer, yes, that's good for me. Thank you for that information. I'm going to assess that based on some of the other opportunities that I'm considering. So don't let them force you into a committed response. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, that's perfect.
Okay. What I always do at the very end, remember we talked about winning or learning. You win either the job or you win the next level or the next step in the interview. I always like to end interviews, if I was interviewing, based on what we talked about today. Is there anything that would preclude me from moving to the next phase? Again, what did I say you all are at the very beginning? You're salespeople. What do salespeople do? They close deals. What is this? You're closing the deal, meaning you're closing the next phase. So, Foster, is there anything that we talked about today that might preclude me from moving on to the next phase? No, there's not. Great. Foster, who will I expect to hear from, and what time frame does that look like?
Right.
you need to get them to commit. There is nothing unreasonable about asking for the interviewer or the hiring manager or the recruiter to give you an idea of what the next step is. That way you can hold them accountable. That way for your follow-up, you can say, hey, Foster, based on our conversation, it's been a week. I haven't heard from Joe Blow. You know, what are the next steps? Can I elaborate on anything? Those are the things that you need to follow up. So don't be afraid to ask the question. Now, if they say, well, you know, you don't have the education or you don't have the experience, then that's something that you can address either on the spot, saying, well, let me elaborate on some of the other things that I've done. Or, you know, at some point, if you don't have a degree, it is what it is. But at least you have an idea so that you're not left in that purgatory of, you know, do I get it? Will I hear from someone? Get that commitment. Close the deal. When I see it, close the deal on finding out what the next step is, who that person is, what the time frame is, and what the next expectations are in terms of, okay, this is the first interview. What is the process? Okay, you're going to talk to the general manager, then you're going to talk to the executive vice president. Get an idea of what that looks like, so now you can formulate your follow-up plan. And that follow-up plan includes email, a handwritten letter, or a video. Remember that. Make sure that you follow up, please and thank you for that opportunity to talk to them. Any questions there? Applying, being cognizant of time. Have custom resumes prepared depending on the role. We talked about that. Be selective as what you apply to. Again, don't do pray or spray. Spray or pray, where you just send out resumes. Again, here, avoid spray and pray. You become a serial applicant that will follow you. You will get tagged and people talk within the industry. Don't be afraid to follow up. Be empathetic, but be strategic, be assertive. It's okay to ask, hey, I haven't heard from you. Sometimes I never get an answer back. I was interviewing for a VP position from a big company. We'll get back to you in a couple of days, Sal. 3 months later, haven't heard from him. It is what it is. It's going to happen. Leverage video. Offer something. Hey, I saw something online. So even if it's not something related to the interview, say, hey, Paul, I saw something based on what we talked about the other day. I saw an article that might interest you. Something like that. That gives you communication. That makes it so that you're not just, you're trying to develop a relationship. And as I have a friend, Seth McCauley, Seth, for some reason I thought Sean, Seth McCauley, he calls networking relationshiping, and that's what you want to do. You want to develop relationships when you network with folks. Be respectfully persistent. Again, it is okay to ask and follow up. This is your career, this is your life, this is your livelihood, so don't be afraid, be assertive. Be respectful. You are not the only applicant. And as Foster can attest to, there are thousands of people that go through his desk on a weekly basis. But squeaky wheel gets oiled, and when you set yourself apart with video and things like that, with, hey, I saw this article online that you might be interested in, it has nothing to do with the interview, it makes it look like you're invested in that relationship. You have an offer, and now what? Make sure you respond, even if it's like, nope, that doesn't work for me, not interested. Please, thank you very much for the opportunity. If there's anything I could do for you, offer up your services and what you can do. Again, it's a servant kind of behavior of, especially when you're networking, kind of I didn't mention this at the very beginning, behavioral and attitude. Make sure that you are espousing the, hey, how can I help you versus, hey, I need a job kind of thought. It'll come back to you, especially if I offer something to help you, that'll come back to me tenfold. So when you're going to network, especially even if you're looking for a job, go with it as if you're going to help someone because it'll come back to you. Make sure you respond. Weigh all of your options before making a final decision. Don't jump at that first opportunity. And it's easy because a buddy of mine said, hey, I got this opportunity. I need to tell them, but I'm waiting to interview for this other opportunity. There are a lot of different dynamics to when you're interviewing. Make sure that you weigh all the options so you're not making a rash decision just to get a job. What you don't want to do is job hop. I think Foster will attest to the fact that although it may be tempting just to take that job, it may be detrimental down the line if you take it just for the sake of taking it and then you leave. It doesn't look good. Don't sell yourself short. It's okay to negotiate. More often than not, when people tell me what they're going to ask for, it is lowballing themselves. So I would recommend, again, doing your homework, finding out what that range is of acceptable salary ranges within that particular role, and I would go above it. And have in your head what that floor is, with that final minimum, that floor of where you're going to go in terms of salary. Go above it, because you can always work yourself down. It's very hard to work yourself back up. But also be mindful of not going too far where it's like, you're crazy. If you're expecting that, then we don't want you. So be very mindful of that. Always go a little bit above, because you can always move down.
Sal,
Sir?
what would you recommend as resources to do the research on the salary for a position?
There's a lot of resources that are free on, if you Google what is the average salary of a, IT analyst in Dallas. Be very specific, because it'll tell you.
Right.
There are a lot of ranges. Now, keep in mind, an IT analyst here is very different than California or New York or, Boise, Idaho. It's going to be very different. So those numbers, be prepared to know what that is. I would when you're doing your research, have an idea of where you are, especially, let's say, here in Dallas, and then find out what it is in California, what it is in New York, what it is in Chicago. That way you have in your head, because if somebody throws that back out to you, well, that sounds applicable, but not here in Dallas. That sounds more like a Idaho. I'm just throwing that out there. But that shows that you've done your homework, and they can't get one over on you. So there are resources online. Yes, sir.
I would also recommend that you know your number both as a contractor
Yes.
and as a W-2 employee.
Yes.
Because they're gonna, if you throw out $80,000 and they say, well, they come back and say $6 or $7 an hour, you better know both, because as a contractor, you're paying your benefits and you're paying your taxes. So make sure you have both numbers calculated as you walk into an interview, and know whether it's going to be a W-2 or a contract position.
That's a great point. So know your worth, if W-2 and then 1099. 1099 was big these past 2 years, big time. So our firm does interim professionals, interim meaning temp to hire. And so a lot of companies these past 2 years were very reluctant to hire full-time folks because of financial position of the company. They let folks go, so they fill them in temporarily. And then if they like them, they could convert them into full-time professionals. So for those of you in the room and on YouTube, think about, if you're okay with that, 1099 work, because that can be pretty lucrative. Interim work is very lucrative too, because for a lot of folks, that's all they want to do. They don't want to do full-time anymore, because one of my clients was the Chicago Cubs, and my main point of contact was the CHRO. She was an interim CHRO for 3 years. And at the tail end, when we filled a couple positions for her, she said, Sal, I'm kind of done with this role. I've done as much as I can with it. I'm happy with the work I've done. I'm ready to move on. And so it can be very fulfilling work. You get introduced to a new industry. You go in to fix things if you're into that, to going into an environment to fix something and to optimize it and then go somewhere else. That's another avenue that you should consider, is 1099 work or gig work. You hear that a lot, the gig economy. Again, you have to weigh the options because of insurance and the tax ramifications, but as far as the adaptability and then the flexibility, that's something you should consider.
Just a strategy on the numbers. If it's 80,000 as a W-2, I assume contract work would be higher.
Would be higher.
You have to be higher so you can cover the taxes and insurance.
Yep. Yep. Yes, sir.
In a world of remote, from the salary standpoint, let's say you're dealing with an organization in Chicago here, are you looking at wage comparisons here or Chicago?
Well, that's great. Usually it's where you live, because that's where you're going to be spending your money. That's a great question, because you could be interviewing with a company in New York, but you're located here in Dallas, that you're not really necessarily expected to get that New York salary because you're living here. But good point. If you are remote workers are big now. A lot of companies are forcing their employees back. That's another thing to consider as job seekers. Think about the flexibility. I've worked at home since 2006. I've not gone into an office since 2006. I don't think I could ever go back to an office. For me personally, that's me personally. So think about that, weigh that dynamic when you're interviewing, the flexibility that you get, or the lack thereof. And your salary is no longer, regardless of whether you're remote or you're on-site, that shouldn't be an impact anymore, because it has been proven, even with our company, my own company, that you can work remotely and still be very productive, if not even more efficient, et cetera. So your salary should be commensurate with that. So I would be very careful when people say, well, you're remote, you're going to earn less. That's not the case. All right? Just be mindful of what your worth is. Make sure you send a thank you. Again, please and thank you. Make sure you do that thank you to positive experience. And recommend someone. So if you turn something down, if you got turned down for a job, say, you know what? I appreciate the opportunity. There might be someone, I know someone, Foster Williams, I know that he might be a good fit. May I introduce you? That goes a long way because, remember, you might be the silver or bronze medalist. You want to maintain that relationship with the company because they may come back to you with a new opportunity. Don't burn any bridges. Your personal brand, I'll go through this very quickly. Make sure what your personal brand is. Clear message. You understand your own personal value proposition. Again, your elevator pitch. Prepare for that. Does your brand represent you effectively and consistently? Meaning, so I have a brand that's out there. I guess maybe Foster can attest to it. It's the way I look, the stuff that I do, the way I present myself. That's a brand that's out there, so I get asked to do things like this. So when you think about what your brand is within your own career, make sure that it's represented authentically of you, because we'll know if it's disingenuous. Make sure that it's clear what your brand is. And that brand can be conveyed and espoused through different things. I started the In Transformation Network for HR professionals who were in transition. I started an Ideal Roundtable that assembled chief diversity officers from Major League Baseball, the NBA, Nike, Walmart. We talked about DE&I. I created with my partners here, Robbie Bryant and Javier Collins, former pro football players, a podcast. I record economic tidbits on LinkedIn. That's the workshop that I did at AT&T Stadium, and then I'm doing those again for the Cowboys for the rest of the year. That's the brand, and that's giving you an idea of, oftentimes people forget that to distinguish yourself or delineate yourself from your competition, you have to kind of separate yourself by doing something. LinkedIn is a perfect platform for doing that. Create content, do it consistently. Doesn't necessarily have to be video. It could be something that's very passionate to you and write about it. And then make sure that you ask your network to like, comment, or share. People forget about the viral nature of social media and how that can really expand your visibility from your brand. And your strategy. Again, prepare. Always be ready so you ain't got to get ready. That's what Robbie Bryant, the second gentleman you saw there, would always say when he played football. Always be ready so you ain't got to get ready. So that you're always prepared. That also refers back to your LinkedIn profile, your resume, your personal value proposition, your preparation of your interview. Recover. So stop, recalibrate, refresh, start over. If you've had a crappy week, if you've been turned down, it's okay to take a couple days off to refresh. Don't feel guilty of taking that time off for yourself, your mental well-being, and your mental state. You win or you learn. So you win the job, you win the next phase of your career search, your interview process. You win by learning what not to do and how to prepare better for your next interview. And please, please, please don't be reluctant to ask for help. These guys that do this program is wonderful. They've helped thousands of people like you in finding that next great role. There's my information. You are 1 degree away from your next great role. So don't forget to network. I think people forget that networking is so powerful. Network outside of your industry. Make sure that you present yourself. Don't be desperate. Hey, I'm looking for a job. I don't care don't say that. Just make sure that you network. And once you get that job, do not forget to not stop networking. You got to continue building that platform. I've seen too many C-level folks, CEOs, CHROs, who are been laid off, been fired, etc. They have no network because they had their heads down and forgot to create that environment, that community, that tribe around them. So don't forget, this group is obviously fantastic in doing that to galvanize this community. Help each other be vulnerable, their strength and vulnerability, and call me or email me or text me if you have any questions, if I can help in any way. So thank you very much. Hopefully this was helpful for y'all. If you need anything, connect with me on LinkedIn, and I very much appreciate the opportunity to spend the morning with you.
Thank you, Sal. Now you guys know why Sal's my buddy. I can hang out with him and people will think I know what I'm talking about.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, sir.
I appreciate it.
You bet. Okay, guys, that is our meeting today. There's one thing that I would like to say, as I always do, towards networking. Guys, you, all of us, even you folks that are on YouTube right now, especially you guys are part of the largest job seeker network we know anything about. So if you have a target company or someone that you know you would like to try to build a relationship with, we recruiters are good people to build relationships with. Okay, I'm smiling. Would you agree, Teresa? We got Teresa back. So good to see you. So guys, here's the deal. If you are interviewing with a recruiter and you want to build a relationship for whatever reason that is, those reasons are yours, do this. Ask them, hey, what are some of the priority jobs that you're trying to fill right now? Real important stuff. What I like to do, I'm part of a big network, what I like to do is post that job so folks can see it. And you might get one of my buddies, you might get somebody in the family that, that is a good fit for that job. And then put on there, tell them that Teresa suggested that you take a look at this job. And you know what? If that recruiter gets a good candidate, which they probably will from this network, because this network is so big, especially here in Dallas-Fort Worth, guys, hey, I remember this Teresa Smeisterla. Wow, she was a real nice lady, and she's willing to help, and she's going to be on that radar. You see what I'm saying, guys? We're just people. It doesn't take a whole lot to get in our brains. We're recruiters. We've got a big job. There's a lot of people, but you'll be surprised who will stay in our minds and who does not. So, and remember tomorrow, Pete told you guys tomorrow at our HR group, guys, join us if you can, because we're going to talk about what not to put on those resumes. We're going to have Diana Alt, who is a national subject matter expert on that thing. She's a strategy coach. So, guys, connect with me on LinkedIn, Foster Williams. You will see it say the Job Father. You guys call me the Job Father. That's pretty cool. I think that's cool. And that way you'll know you have the right Foster Williams. Not going to be too many Foster Williams as big as LinkedIn is. And that way, if you connect with me, I will have your email address, and I can send you the information, the meeting notice that we send out that is complete with the LinkedIn, no, not LinkedIn, the Zoom link on it. So, again, Foster Williams, please link in with me. And that is John.
Yes.
Any parting comments or something that I'm forgetting to do?
Well, I'll probably remember after we're outside. That's how it rolls. No, I think you've covered everything pretty well.
Okay.
Just a reminder to those online that spread the word, because this excellent presentation that Sal did covers the essentials. And it's a lot of hard work, but that's your job now, right?
That's right.
So spread the word, because people can view that after the fact. They can pause it, fast forward it, rewind it if they need to make notes or jot anything down on the links that are presented or any of the points that Sal covered. And great meeting.
Absolutely, guys. Share it. You can go to LinkedIn, or you can go to YouTube later on and find this presentation. And so, guys, that is our meeting. Again, we want to thank Sal. That was an excellent presentation. They all are. Sal has been presenting with us, with this network, for years now. And The value is there, guys. Remember, you can see this presentation again later on. You share it with all your friends. Sharing is caring. That's what Trevor says. That's what I say. Thank you. See you on 10-4. 10-4. Oh, I like that, 10-4. The next Frisco Connect will be 10-4.
All right, thank you.